Now then, get your equipment, your quiver and bow, and go out to the open country to hunt some wild game. Genesis 27:3.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Food for the Plot. I do apologize. I know it's been a while since I've done an episode of Food for the Plot. As you can imagine, I'm just busy. And as an audience, I have you guys set up differently today, and that's because I'm trying to get this done. I'm trying to get it out there so you guys have something to watch. And then I'm trying to get out to the farm so I can work on stands, blinds, food plots, etc. because deer season is about to heat up here in Ohio. If you're new here, my name is Garrett, and this is an outdoor podcast where we talk about land, wildlife, stewardship, conservation, hunting, and the deeper meaning behind why we do what we do out here. Today, we're diving into something that, if I'm being honest, confuses me almost every single year, and I know that I'm not the only one. Hunting regulations, specifically Ohio's. Every summer, that new booklet comes out, and I open it up thinking, all right, what changes here? Then, 20 minutes later, I'm flipping back and forth between the maps, season dates, permit rules, and trying to remember whether something applies to public land, private land, or both. So today's episode isn't legal advice. I'm just another Ohio hunter who's gone through the regulations and wants to break them down in normal English. By the end of this episode, my goal is that you'll understand the biggest differences between hunting public land and private land here in Ohio, avoid some common mistakes, and hopefully head into the season with a little more confidence. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and let's get into it. Starting off, why do we even have hunting regulations? I hear people complain every year. There's too many rules, they're making hunting harder, the regulations are getting ridiculous, and honestly, I get where they're coming from. Sometimes the booklet can feel overwhelming, but if you really step back and think about it, hunting regulations aren't there to make our lives miserable. They're there because without them, we probably wouldn't have the hunting opportunities that we enjoy today. Think back 100 years. There were very few wildlife regulations. Market hunting was common, habitat was disappearing, and white-tailed deer populations in many states were in rough shape. Fast forward to today, Ohio has hundreds of thousands of deer, thriving turkey populations, excellent waterfowl hunting, and plenty of opportunities for hunters. That didn't happen by accident. Hunters, conservation organizations, wildlife biologists, and agencies all played a role in bringing wildlife back. And that's something I think we sometimes forget. Every hunting license we buy, every deer permit, every duck stamp, every one of those dollars helps fund conservation. Hunters have always been one of the biggest supporters of wildlife conservation. So while regulations can be frustrating, they're also one of the biggest reasons we still have healthy wildlife populations to hunt. And I think that's something worth remembering. Now let's get into probably the biggest topic of today's episode, public land versus private land. This is where a lot of the confusion starts. Because while many hunting regulations apply everywhere, there are several important differences. And if you don't know those differences, you could accidentally find yourself getting a ticket. So let's start with private land. Private land is exactly what it sounds like. Somebody owns it. It might be a farmer, might be your grandparents, it might be your neighbor. Shoot, it might even be your own property. The biggest thing to remember is just because it looks like good hunting doesn't mean you can hunt it. You need permission. And honestly, if somebody trusts you enough to let you hunt their property, treat that privilege like gold. Close every gate. Don't leave trash. Don't tear up the fields. Don't drive where you shouldn't. Don't leave your snack wrappers in the blind. Be helpful where you can. Maybe even drop off some venison after the season. Those things go a long way. Good hunters get invited back. Bad hunters do not. Now compare that to public land. Public land belongs to all of us. That's one of the coolest things about it. Whether you're 16 years old or 60, whether you own 1,000 acres or live in an apartment, you have access to hunt public land. And I think that's something we should appreciate. Ohio has wildlife areas, state forests, certain federal properties, and other public hunting opportunities that thousands of hunters enjoy every year. Some of these places produce absolute giant bucks too. Some produce great turkey hunting, some are fantastic for squirrel hunting, some get hunted hard, some don't. But there's something that every public land hunter has to understand. Nobody owns a spot. You may have hunted that ridge for 10 years. You may have found that particular tree. You may have hung cameras. You may know every white oak on the property. But if another hunter gets there first, that's their hunting spot that morning. It doesn't matter how much work you've put in, that's just part of public land hunting. Sometimes you'll hike a mile before daylight only to see another headlamp exactly where you plan to hunt. It happens. And while it's frustrating, that's public land. The best thing you can do? Wish them luck, turn around, and go find Plan B, Plan C, Plan D, etc. The hunters who consistently find success on public land usually aren't successful because they have one magical tree. They're successful because they know how to adapt. All right, now let's go ahead and talk about one of the biggest differences between public and private land in Ohio: baiting. This catches people every single year. Here's the simple version. On private land, Ohio allows hunters to hunt over bait for deer, provided they're following the current state regulations and there aren't any disease related restrictions in effect for that particular area. But that rule does not carry over to public hunting areas. If you're hunting Ohio public land, you cannot bait deer. No piles of corn, no aprils, no mineral blocks, nothing like that. No, just a little bit to get some trail cam pictures. Nope. If it's a bait, leave it at home. And honestly, I think this is where people get tripped up. They hunt Grandpa's farm all October with a feeder or a pile of corn. Then they decide to try a wildlife area in November. They assume the same rules apply. Newsflash, they do not. Public land has different regulations because it's shared by everyone. The goal is to keep the playing field fair, reduce conflicts between hunters, and help manage wildlife responsibly. So if you're planning to hunt public land this year, don't even put yourself in a questionable situation. If you're asking yourself, I wonder if this counts as bait, the safest answer is probably to avoid it. Trust me, a mature buck isn't worth risking a citation. A little perspective. Some people absolutely love baiting. Some people hate it. Some states allow it, some states don't. Everybody has their opinion, but regardless of where you stand, the regulations are the regulations. As hunters, our job isn't to pick and choose which ones we like. Our job is to know them and to follow them. At the end of the day, we're ambassadors for hunting. Every time we're in the woods, we're representing the hunting community to landowners, hikers, bird watchers, kids, and people who've never hunted before. The better example we set, the better future hunting has. Now let's get into stuff that every hunter needs to know before stepping into the woods, because honestly, this is where a lot of people get overwhelmed. You've got hunting licenses, then deer permits, then different season dates, county bag limits, hunter orange requirements, checking your deer, and somewhere in the middle of all of that, you're wondering, can I just go hunting already? So let's break it down one step at a time. Let's start with probably the easiest one. Before you hunt, make sure you actually have all the licenses and permits you need. Now, if you've hunted for years, this probably seems obvious, but every season, there are hunters who either forget to renew their license, bought the wrong permit, or simply assume they were good to go. Take 5 minutes before opening day, log into your Ohio Wildlife account, double check everything. Trust me, that's a lot easier than finding out you forgot something after a wildlife officer asked to see your license. Now here's something worth mentioning. A hunting license gets you in the game, but depending on what you're hunting, you may need additional permits. If you're hunting deer, you'll need the proper deer permit. Turkey, you'll need a turkey permit. Waterfowl, there are additional requirements there as well, such as the HIP survey, state waterfowl stamp, and the federal waterfowl stamp. Sounds like a lot, but once you've done it a couple years, it becomes second nature. The important thing is simply making sure you're legal before the season starts, not on the morning of opening day while you're sitting in the truck trying to remember your password. Now let's talk about something that changes almost every year: season dates. I think one of the biggest mistakes hunters make is assuming this year's dates are the same as last year's. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. That's why every single summer I make it a habit to grab the newest regulations and look through the season dates. Archery season, youth gun season, regular gun season, muzzleloader season, special hunts. Those dates matter. And here's another thing. If you're planning a vacation around hunting season, don't just assume. Double check. Can you imagine taking a week off of work, packing all your gear, driving 2 hours to camp only to realize opening day is actually tomorrow? That'd be a rough phone call to your boss. Now, obviously, we're not going to read every single season date on this podcast because by the time you're listening to this, dates could eventually change in future years. Instead, make it a habit. Every year, grab the newest regulations, spend 20 minutes reading through them. It's honestly one of the easiest things you can do to avoid problems. Let's go ahead and do something fun. True or false? I've hunted for years. I don't really need to read the regulations anymore. False. Every year, there can be updates. Maybe it's a season date. Maybe it's a county bag limit. Maybe it's a new wildlife area regulation. Maybe nothing changed that affects you, but you'll never know unless you actually look. Now let's switch to county bag limits. This is another area that can confuse hunters. Some counties allow more antlerless harvest opportunities than others. Why? Because deer populations aren't the same across the entire state. Some counties have more deer than they need. Others don't. Wildlife biologists use harvest data, population surveys, crop damage reports, vehicle collisions, and other information to help determine what those limits should be. So if you hunt multiple counties, don't assume they're all the same. This is especially important if you're fortunate enough to have permission on more than one property. Take a few minutes before the season starts, look up the counties you're hunting, know your limits. It's a simple thing that can save a major headache later. It's important to remember that Ohio does have a statewide limit. Last year, the statewide limit on deer in Ohio was 6 total deer, one of which could be antlered. In quotations, it reads, "Hunters may combine individual county harvests to reach their statewide limit." So let's feel this out so it makes sense. I primarily hunt in Miami County and Greene County. Last year, those were both 3 deer counties. Legally, I could have harvested 3 does in Miami County, and in Greene County, I could have harvested 2 does along with 1 buck, bringing my statewide total to 6 deer, one of which was antlered. Ohio's rule of only being able to harvest 1 antlered deer is one of the most underappreciated rules Ohio has, in my opinion. It's important because I think it has helped Ohio become one of the better states for mature bucks. It allows more deer to reach older age classes and gives hunters a better chance at seeing bigger deer over time. Of course, everybody has different opinions. Some people would like to see different regulations. Others think it's perfect the way it is. Regardless of where you stand, know the rule before you head out. Now let's talk safety. Hunter orange. If you've ever hunted gun season in Ohio, you've worn it. But here's what I think sometimes gets overlooked. Hunting orange isn't there because it looks cool. It's there because somebody else can see you. Public land especially can get busy during gun season. There may be hunters coming from multiple different directions. There may be drives happening. There may be people walking back to trucks. That blaze orange could literally prevent someone from making a terrible mistake. Now here's my advice. Even if you're not legally required to wear orange in certain situations, there's absolutely nothing wrong with wearing more orange while walking in and out of your stand. I'd much rather be visible during my hike than invisible trying to look hardcore. No deer is worth sacrificing safety. Sometimes, even during archery season, if I'm hunting a piece of public land that I know gets a lot of hunters, I'll wear an orange vest just to be extra cautious. Speaking of safety, let's talk about parking lots. If you're hunting public land and you pull into a parking lot before daylight, take a look around. See a bunch of trucks? That doesn't necessarily mean your hunt is ruined, it just means you need to adjust. One thing I've learned is not everybody walks deep. Some hunters stay close, some go far. Some hunt mornings only. Some hunt evenings. Don't let a full parking lot automatically discourage you. Sometimes it just means you've got to think a little differently. Tree stands on public land. This is another area where people should always read the current regulations for specific property they're hunting. Different public hunting areas can have specific rules about portable stands, climbing sticks, whether equipment must be labeled with your customer ID or contact information, and when equipment has to be removed. Just because your buddy says, "Oh, I've always left mine out," doesn't make it legal. Take 5 minutes. Read the regulations for the wildlife area you're planning to hunt. It's a lot cheaper than replacing confiscated equipment or paying a fine. Personally, I'm a big fan of taking down my stands and blinds after each season. It prevents them from getting worn out, and on public land, it prevents them from being stolen. It's a good practice to take them down each year and also protects wildlife and trees. Now, I want to shift gears a little bit because if I'm being honest, some of the most important rules of hunting aren't actually written in the regulation booklet. They're the unwritten rules. They're the things that separate good hunters from great hunters. They're the things that build respect within the hunting community, and they're the things that determine whether people enjoy sharing the woods with you or hope they never run into you again. So let's talk about public land etiquette. You know, it's funny, every hunter has a story. Maybe somebody walked right underneath their stand. Maybe somebody set up 75 yards away after daylight. Maybe somebody left trash at the parking lot. Maybe somebody stole a camera. Unfortunately, that's the kind of stuff that gives public land a bad reputation. But here's the thing, most public land hunters are good people. Most hunters wave when they see another truck. Most hunters respect each other. Most hunters genuinely want everyone to have a safe and successful hunt. The problem is, it only takes a handful of inconsiderate people to leave a bad impression. So here's my challenge. Be the kind of hunter that other people enjoy sharing the woods with. If you hike into your favorite ridge before daylight and somebody's already there, don't get mad. Don't try to sneak around them. Don't intentionally hunt 40 yards away just because it's public land. Turn around. Find another spot. Will it be frustrating? Absolutely. But you'll enjoy your morning a whole lot more than if you're sitting there angry because somebody beat you to your tree. One thing I've learned is this. You can always find another tree. You can always find another ridge. You can always scout another area. But you can't take back a bad interaction with another hunter. Let's talk about parking lots again for a second. It seems simple, but it's worth mentioning. Don't block gates. Don't block another hunter's vehicle. Don't park in a way that makes it difficult for someone else to leave. And if you happen to cross paths with another hunter in the parking lot, just say hello. Wish them luck You don't have to tell them where you're hunting. You don't have to tell them where the big buck is living. Just be friendly. Believe it or not, hunters can actually be on the same property and still root for each other. Leave it better than you found it. This one's a big for me. If you packed it in, pack it out. Coffee cups, water bottles, snack wrappers, broken arrows, zip ties, flagging tape, empty shell casings, whatever it is, take it with you. Public land belongs to all of us, and if we expect non-hunters to respect our traditions, we have to respect the land. I don't know about you, but every time I find trash sitting in a beautiful wildlife area, it honestly irritates me, because now someone hiking that property might assume hunters left it there. Whether they did or not, that's the impression we leave. Let's be better than that. Don't believe everything you hear. Here's something that happens every hunting season. Everybody becomes an expert. You know what I'm talking about. You'll hear somebody at the sporting goods store say, "I've hunted Ohio for 30 years. Then they follow it up with, "You don't need to worry about that regulation," or "They'll never check," or "I've always done it this way." Here's my advice. Don't rely on hearsay. Go to the source. Read the Ohio hunting and trapping regulations. If you have a question, call the Division of Wildlife. Talk to a wildlife officer. Ask someone whose job it is that knows the regulations. Because "my buddy told me" probably isn't going to help you if you're standing there trying to explain yourself during a wildlife check. Let's have a little fun again. True or false? I hunted this spot last year, so it's basically my spot. Nope, it's public land. Nobody owns that tree, nobody owns that ridge, nobody owns that saddle. The first hunter there gets the opportunity that morning. Simple as that. True or false? If nobody sees me, it isn't a big deal. Again, wrong. Hunting ethically isn't about whether somebody catches you. It's about doing the right thing when nobody's watching. That's what integrity looks like. Another one, true or false? I've hunted for 20 years, so I don't need to read the regulations. Also, false. Regulations change. Sometimes it's a small wording change. Sometimes it's a season adjustment. Sometimes it's a county bag limit. Take a few minutes every year and refresh yourself. Last one, true or false? Public land isn't worth hunting because it's too crowded. I hear this one all the time. Is public land harder? Sometimes. Does it have more pressure? Usually. Can you still kill mature deer on public land? Abso-freaking-lutely. Every single year, hunters tag incredible bucks on Ohio public land. It takes preparation, patience, and the willingness to adapt. As we start wrapping things up, I want to leave you with one simple thought. Every regulation in that booklet can seem overwhelming. Trust me, I've been there. I still read through it every year. I still catch things that I forgot, and I still find myself double-checking certain rules before the season starts. There's absolutely nothing wrong with taking 10 or 15 minutes to review the regulations. In fact, I think it's one of the marks of a responsible hunter. Not because you're afraid of getting a ticket, but because you care about doing things the right way. We spend thousands of dollars on bows, rifles, trail cameras, food plots, tree stands, ATVs, gas, clothing, etc. Why wouldn't we just spend 20 minutes making sure we understand the rules? So here's your challenge before opening day. This week, down the newest Ohio hunting and trapping regulations. Read through them. Highlight anything that's new. If you hunt public land, read the specific regulations for the wildlife area you're planning to hunt. If you hunt private land, double check your season dates, permits, and county bag limits. Then do one more thing. Share those regulations with someone who's new to hunting. Maybe it's your son or daughter. Maybe it's a friend from work, your hunting buddy. Help somebody else understand the rules, because the more educated hunters we have, the stronger our hunting community becomes. Well, everybody, that'll do it for today's episode of Food for the Plot. I really hope this conversation helped make Ohio's hunting regulations a little less confusing. Like I said at the beginning of the episode, this wasn't meant to replace the regulation booklet. It's meant to help you understand it and encourage you to read it yourself before heading into the woods. If you found this episode helpful, I'd really appreciate it if you share it with a friend, a hunting buddy, or somebody who's getting into hunting for the first time. Chances are they're probably wondering about some of these same regulations too. If you're listening on Spotify, be sure to follow the show so you don't miss future episodes. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment, and let me know what topic you'd like to hear next. Until next time, remember this. Take care of the land, respect the wildlife, respect each other, and never stop learning. I'm Garrett. This has been Food for the Plot, and I'll catch you on the next one. God bless, stick with it, and good luck this season.